maathrey, namaha. The divine blessings of our Mother Divine Lalita Sahasranamam and Father Divine Lord Mahadeva. We are continuing to discuss the Sree Lalita Sahasranamam in those divine efforts. Today we'll discuss the next namam, Brhamopendradi. Mahendradi Deva Samsthutha Vaibhava. Brhamopendradi. Mahendradi Deva Samsthutha Vaibhava. Brahma, Upendra, Maha Indra, Deva Samsthutha Vaibhava. All gods, including the king of gods, Maha Indra, Mahendra, his brother Upendra, who is none other than Vishnu, and Brahma, and all the other gods are praying to Mother Divine. In the war between Bhandasura and Lalita Mahatripurasundari and the divine armies, everybody fought. But the reason there is no mention of Mahakameshwara or Shiva in this namam is essentially because Shiva is still continuing to be in his cosmic trance state, whereas Mother, being the chief administratress of the cosmos, is taking the lead in fighting Bhandasura and in annihilating his demonic forces. Now all the divine armies that include Subramanya, Ganesha, everybody, including the king of gods, Indra is mentioned. That means everybody in his court. The Astadikpalakas, all the other gods who are ruled by the king of gods, Indra, are automatically included. The ones above Indra are the Trinity, Mahavishnu, Maheshwara, and Brahma. Of these three, Shiva, by the relationship, becomes the husband of Lalita Mahatripurasundari as Mahakameshwara. Therefore, excluding him, Brahma, Upendra are listed by the Vagdevis. Now, whenever we have a doubt, we reach out to our gurus, and in this context, we reach out to our Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya in his magnum opus. If I remember the shlokam number right, 65 it is, as I recall. There's a very similar description of a war and the warriors who return from the war, on how they are longing to relax in the lap of the mother. The slokam goes as Rane Jitva Daitya Napahru Kavachabihi Nivritte Chandansa Tripura Nirmalya Vimukaihi Visha Kendro Pendro Pendrai Shashi Vishada Karpura Shakala Viliyante Matas Tavavadana Tambula Kabala. After killing all the demonic forces in the war with Bhandasura, the divine armed forces that are being led by Kartikeya, Indra, Upendra, who is Vishnu, are all exhausted, and when they're going to war, obviously they'll be dressed accordingly with the shields, the required helmets. And once the war was over and the divine armies became victorious with the blessings of the Divine Mother, our Jagat Guru opens the screenplay Rane Jitva Daitya. Rane, in the war, the warriors became victorious. Jitva Daitya, the divine armies are victorious and they returned. How did they return? Napahruta Sirastrai Kavachabi, the one shield that is covering their head, which is the helmet, and Kavachabi, the torso of the body is being protected Nivritte Chandansa Tripura Nirmalya Vimukai. Very, very, very powerful indication of the Pativrata Dharmam of Lalita Mahatripura Sundari. When they were returning to mother, they saw a plate almost empty with little leftovers. And when they looked at it, Vishaka, the chief commander of the armed forces, Subramanya Swami, Indra, Vishakhendro Pendrai, Vishaka, the chief commander of the divine armed forces, Indra, the king of divine armed forces, Upendra, Vishnu, who is the lord of sustenance. When the three of them were returning to the lap of mother, they saw a plate almost empty with little leftover food. And there it says Tripura Nirmalya Vimukhai. What is Tripura Nirmalya? Tripura is used for Shiva. Tripura Sundara is Shiva. Tripura Sundari is Mother Divine Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari. Tripura Nirmalya Vimukhai. Whatever food was left by Shiva, that is a prasadam. But Vimukhai, they were not interested. Rather, they turned their head to the other side because Shiva blessed Chanda. We discussed Chandasuras, or Chandishwara is called Chanda. Chandishwara's birth in another story, born as a Brahmin boy. Because of his dedication to Shiva, Chandishwara became one of the family members of Shiva's divine family. And Shiva and Mother Goddess Parvati consider him as the son who is constantly meditating on Lord Shiva. And Shiva gave him the blessing that whenever a prasadam is offered to Shiva, or Shiva accepts any food, the leftover will go to Chandishwara. Therefore, Vishaka, Indra, Upendra were reluctant to look at that side because that is given as a prasadam to Chandishwara. And therefore, they turned their heads to the other side looking for mother. And Viliyante Vishakendropendrai Shasha Vishada Karpura Shakala. They were searching for mother, but they could not find out where Mother Divine was. And then the smell of that camphor that Mother Divine constantly chews as part of her tambulam started attracting them, and that smell dragged them to the place where Mother Divine was sitting with everybody surrounding her. And when these three, accompanied by other gods and the Pitamaha of the gods Brahma, they approached Mother Divine, they all bowed down to her, and Vishaka, her son Subramanya, Indra, great devotee Indra, who was restored as the king of the gods with her blessing, and Indra's wife Sachi Devi is a greater devotee of Mother Divine. Because of her prayers, Indra continues to sit as the king of the gods. Upendra, Vishnu, who is the brother of Parvati, but here he becomes his son because Lalita Mahatripura Sundari is the mother of all beings. Jagato Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwara, and Lalita is the mother of the Trinity as well. When the three kids approached mother, she took a piece of the pan that she was eating, that she was chewing, and gave them the prasadam to the three. The biggest prasadam a devotee can offer to Mother Divine is tambulam, and the biggest prasadam that a devotee can get back from Mother Divine is also tambulam. I remember when I was a young boy still coming through, I remember my grandmother, who would very lovingly request me to get pan for her after the lunch. And when I would get the pan for her, I was probably 6-7 years old. and she would offer me that pan that she would chew a bit and then would give me. I don't even know now, most of the current day kids would know. And that grandmother, my paternal grandmother, whose name incidentally happens to be Bala Tripura Sundari, was the one who initiated me into Sri Vidya when I was just 6 years old or young boy, by giving the Hayagriva mantram. And probably it's a divine plan that when I was born, I was first breastfed by my paternal grandmother as my mother, while giving birth to me, went into almost a state of coma for a couple of days. Therefore, she was not in a position to feed me directly. Now, whenever I am reminded of this shlokam, I get reminded of my mother and my grandmother in a grand way. The Bala Tripura Sundari, the first Bala Tripura Sundari name was introduced to me during my childhood as my grandmother. Viliyante matas stavavadana tambula kabala. Any time I remember or recall this line, I go back to my childhood. And because of that half-chewed pan of my grandmother, who initiated me into Sri Vidya by giving the Hayagriva mantram, today the Divine Mother, Lalita Tripura Sundari, continues to speak through me by enabling an ignorant person like me to share whatever little I can, because she is the one who facilitates the organs of speech, thought and talk, therefore enabling me to speak. And this is a brief attempt at the namam Brhamopendradi Deva Samsthutha Vaibhava. In the next episode connected with this namam, I will also try to share a stuti that all the gods sang in praise of Mother Divine. Stay blessed, spread the bliss around. Shree maathrey, namaha.